Larry's special guest, First Lady Hillary Rodham Clinton.
Good evening. She's First Lady of the United States and a lady of firsts. The first of the baby boom generation to be in this role. The first in many years to come to the White House as a working mother. And the first to testify before Congress as a lead witness. Only two others, Rosalind Carter and Eleanor Roosevelt, ever testified at all. As chairwoman of the President's Health Care Reform Task Force, she impressed many members of Congress, including those who opposed the plan, with her straightforwardness, her knowledge of specifics, and her ability to quip. Hillary Rodham Clinton, First Lady, mother, wife, hostess of America's home. What's the best part about this job?
The very best part is being part of doing what my husband's trying to do to help the country and change it. I find that...
You really feel that?
Oh, in my entire being, I feel that. You know, I spent a lot of time working on issues that I cared about, whether it was public education or children's health or children's welfare. And I just never understood why we as a country just couldn't get it together and solve some of these problems, because we were letting violence consume our kids. We were letting all kinds of things bad happen. And now I begin to see people starting to work together. And, of course, I think my husband's had a lot to do with that.
We were talking, we mentioned briefly there was a story. I don't like to involve myself in every interview, in any interview, in fact. But I had an accident on a street in Washington. Nothing happened. Fender bender. Both cars are done, fixed. It's over. It was front page.
I know.
You read that story?
I did read that story, and I read it trying to figure out, why is this in the newspaper? I couldn't get it.
And that's happened to you a lot, right?
Sure.
How do you, all right, I could look by it one day, it's kind of funny. How do you deal with it on a daily basis?
You just have to decide that you're not going to let it bother you, because otherwise you'd wake up every morning and by 7 a.m. you'd be all anxious because people would be writing things or saying things that you knew weren't true, and you wouldn't know what to do about it.
So do you not read it?
I skim it, but I don't read it, and I try to make sure that if there's anything I need to know about, somebody tells me, in case I miss it. But, you know, there's just too much to do in life, and there's too many exciting opportunities to worry about what somebody says or didn't say and then try to involve you in it, as you found out with that story, which was a non-story.
It's a non-story, but does the pain ever, for example, and people, yesterday I spoke to the AMA in convention, and they were all upset at a front-page story in the New York Times, saying that they were being critical of your health plan, critical of you, and they wanted me, all of them came over to me, the president of the AMA, please assure her, please tell her, please, that story's wrong. We didn't boo Donna Shalala, we agree in principle with most of the health plan. Okay, when you read the New York Times, you didn't know that they were going to say that. How did you feel?
Well, I was lucky because I had other newspapers which reported a very different story. So
on the same
occurrence, the same event. And I also have been working with these doctors in the AMA for a number of months now, and they've been very forthright, very helpful. We know where we agree and we know where we disagree, and we're trying to work through our disagreements. So I thought it was kind of an odd story, but I made some phone calls. I found out exactly what you found out, which is that's not at all what they intended nor what they said, and they were sorry that it had happened.
I'll get back to healthcare, back to criticism. Does any of it ever help you? Have you ever read things and said, you know, there's a good point of view?
Yes. And you know what I tried to decide to do, and I don't always do it, but here's my motto, which is to try to take criticism seriously but not personally. So that if somebody has a message they're trying to get to you, and it's a different way of looking at the world, it's a different piece of information, take that seriously. But don't let it eat away at who you are and undermine your sense of self, or maybe even destroy a relationship with somebody because they say somebody said something and you don't go to the trouble to check it out. So I try to take it seriously, but not personally.
All right, how about Hillary bashers? There are bashers, right? I mean, people around the country who daily take Hillary on, usually on the far right.
Right.
How do you deal with that?
I ignore them. I really ignore them because they're usually doing it for some kind of personal or political gain, and they're not even attempting to stay within the bounds of truth or accuracy. And I'd much rather listen to people who are acting in good faith but honestly don't agree with something that I'm doing or the president's doing.
You've worked this issue a long time. Senator Dole has told us that you're a familiar figure on the Hill, and you work with Republicans well.
Yes, I sure do.
Is this a concept you did in Arkansas, too?
Well, we didn't have many Republicans in Arkansas. But
did you ever testify before a House or Senate committee?
I did, and I spoke once to the whole House on education. But, you know, I was raised in a Republican family. My father was a very strong Republican, except he thought my husband was a great American. But I'm very used to working with people from different points of view, because I think that makes for better policy, to really listen to each other and not shut each other off.
Do you think now, though, that what you've succeeded in doing is framing the issue so that Americans now regard health as a right?
I hope so. I hope we have framed it so that every American knows that the way they should judge what we do is whether at the end of it they and their families never have to worry about health care coverage again. They will be secure, and they will have a set of benefits they can count on no matter who they are or where they work. I hope that's the way it's been framed.
Nowhere is it printed that it's a right, right? Mm-hmm. It's not a God-given right as we have to free speech, mm-hmm. assembly, mm-hmm. health. And do you think, though, seriously, as you look at yourself, you framed this?
I think it is. It underlies life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It underlies a modern, complex society that is spending too much money for the health care that we have and not even taking care of everybody. So although it may not be listed anywhere as a right, it is a right, because without it, everything else this country stands for and wants to do for itself, and what every individual wants to do to be responsible, is not possible.
Now, you're a pretty good student. You got pretty good grades. You read your history pretty good. It's been going on a long time. Harry Truman in 1948 introduced national health insurance, was called a socialist. Mm-hmm. It never came. Ted Kennedy's had proposals. Republicans have had proposals. Why now?
Because I think now most people understand that it's an issue that affects them, not somebody else. You know, when you have as many people as we do who are insured, losing their insurance every month, more than 2 million, and maybe they only lose it for a week, but maybe they lose it for a year, then it's not a problem that happens out there somewhere. It's a problem that happens in every home. Every American knows somebody who has been shut out of the insurance market, been denied coverage because of a pre-existing condition, been unable to move jobs because to move means they lose insurance, been laid off and lost insurance when they thought they'd be employed forever. You can go down the list. So now it's a problem whose time for a solution has finally come.
Let me also express my appreciation to you for the work you've done and your willingness to come before this committee today, and tell you what a joy it is to see you here.
Thank you.
I listened to the chairman's opening statement, and while I don't share the chairman's joy at our holding hearings on a government-run health care system, I do share his intention to make the debate and the legislative process as exciting as possible.
I'm sure you will do that, Mr. Army.
We'll do the best we can.
You and Dr. Kevorkian, right?
Healthcare is in place. It's rolling. It's beginning to start.
Right.
What knoweth, Hillary?
I don't know. I think probably...
What interests you?
Children and children's needs interest me. That's what really drives me in this health care issue.
All right, everyone, let's look at some Gallup numbers here about who is the most admired woman in America. Hillary Clinton won for the 6th year in a row. Let's look at these numbers. Hillary Clinton clocks in at 18%, nosing out Oprah Winfrey at 16%, Condi at 5%, Angelina Jolie and Laura Bush at 3%.